Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome. We're truly happy you're here. Whether you're lying in bed, unwinding after a long day, or simply looking for a peaceful escape, you've found your quiet corner of the world. Have you ever stood in silence and wondered what lies beneath the ground we walk on? The ruins, the echoes, the forgotten whispers of cities that once breathed with life? Across deserts, jungles, and oceans, traces of ancient worlds still sleep, some hidden by time, others lost in mystery. This is not just a story, it's an educational journey. A journey through real history, real civilizations, and real mysteries. These were cities where people lived, dreamed, built wonders, and then vanished. What caused their fall? Was it nature, war, or something even more mysterious? Tonight, we're not just exploring stones and ruins. We're uncovering memories carved into the earth. From sunken kingdoms to mountaintop temples, from buried streets to forgotten empires, we'll gently guide you through the rise and fall of the world's most fascinating lost cities. Whether you're here out of curiosity or simply seeking rest, this is your space to breathe, to slow down, and to dream. So take a deep breath. Let your body relax. Let your mind drift through time, across silent ruins and ancient lands. You are about to travel through centuries, over oceans and sands, into the heart of what was once great and is now almost forgotten. This is the story of lost cities. Before we begin, we'd love to know, where in the world are you watching from, and what time is it for you right now? Drop it in the comments. We truly enjoy seeing your messages from every part of the world. And one gentle reminder, please subscribe to the channel and like this video. Because if you get too relaxed and drift off to sleep, there's a chance you might forget to do it later. So please, take a moment now. It really helps us keep creating more peaceful and meaningful content just for you. Now, let the journey begin. Petri, Greece, one of the oldest underwater cities. Along the serene southern coast of Laconia in Greece, beneath the gentle waves of the Mediterranean Sea, lies a city long forgotten by time. Petri, a name that today belongs more to the seabed than the surface, once thrived as a vibrant Bronze Age settlement. Submerged in just a few meters of clear, warm water, the site whispers ancient secrets through its preserved streets, homes, and tombs. For thousands of years, the sea cradled its memory in silence, until the modern world stumbled upon its quiet legacy. In its day, Petri was not a mythical place, but a living, breathing community where people laughed, traded, raised children, and honored the dead. The sun that once set behind its stone walls now dances gently over submerged foundations, illuminating a city that time didn't destroy, but merely concealed. Petri is nestled near the modern town of Elefanisos in the Peloponnese region of Greece. Though just a few meters offshore, the city's position beneath the water's surface creates an otherworldly feeling. To stand on the shore and look out at the sea is to gaze upon what seems like nothing. And yet, just below, lie the remains of one of the world's oldest known submerged cities. It's as if the earth itself took a gentle breath and allowed Petri to rest peacefully beneath the waves. The soft sand and clear water preserve its remains with remarkable clarity, making it not only one of the oldest underwater cities ever discovered, but also one of the most intact. This ancient city was built by a sophisticated civilization during the early Bronze Age, around 2800 BCE. Though its exact builders remain unknown, archaeologists believe Petri belonged to the Minoan or early Mycenaean cultures, two of the most advanced societies of their time. These people left behind no written documents within Petri's ruins, yet their architecture and planning speak volumes. Their streets were laid out with care, their buildings had multiple rooms, and there's evidence of drainage systems and possibly even ceremonial spaces. Whoever they were, they lived with intention and ingenuity. They were not the faceless primitives of distant myth, but people with families, beliefs, and routines not so different from our own. During its prime, which likely lasted from about 2000 to 1100 BCE, Petri was a bustling harbor town. Situated perfectly along key maritime trade routes, the city may have served as a stopover for ships traveling between Crete, the Cyclades, and mainland Greece. The people here traded goods like pottery, olive oil, textiles, and perhaps even metals. They built homes with stone foundations, constructed tombs for their dead, and walked down well-planned streets. Unlike many ancient cities, Pavlopetri was not built randomly. Its layout was deliberate, with distinct residential, industrial, and possibly sacred zones. It's hard not to imagine children running through the alleys, fishermen hauling in their catch, and families gathering for evening meals under the soft Mediterranean sky. Life in Pavlopetri may have been modest, but it was rich with meaning and rhythm. What makes Pavlopetri especially captivating is the completeness of its layout. It's not just the remains of a few scattered walls. It's an entire city map preserved under the sea. The stone outlines of at least 15 buildings are still visible, along with courtyards, roads, and tombs. Archaeologists have discovered storage rooms, pottery kilns, and cisterns for collecting rainwater. This level of preservation offers an unprecedented glimpse into Bronze Age urban planning. It's a true underwater time capsule, untouched by later development or looting. Unlike ruins that have been rebuilt, damaged, or altered by centuries of human interference, Pavlopetri remained exactly where it fell, waiting silently for someone to find it again. But Pavlopetri's story took a sudden and quiet turn. Sometime around 1100 BCE, a powerful earthquake or a series of geological shifts caused part of the coastline to sink. With it, the city of Pavlopetri slipped beneath the surface, lost to the waters that once sustained it. There was no violent destruction from war, no fire or siege. The sea simply took it back. The people likely fled, taking what they could, leaving their homes and livelihoods behind. Over the centuries, the water preserved what the earth had abandoned. The slow drift of sand and silt covered its memory. Eventually, even its name was forgotten. Pavlopetri ceased to be a place in the world and became instead a ghost in the sea. Centuries passed. Civilizations rose and fell. Ships sailed unknowingly over its submerged rooftops. The world moved on, and yet Pavlopetri remained. In 1967, British archaeologist Nicholas Fleming stumbled upon the ruins while diving off the coast. At first, it was hard to believe what he had found. Here, under just 3 to 4 meters of water, were the unmistakable outlines of a structured settlement. Further exploration confirmed the incredible discovery: an intact city, thousands of years old, preserved in the seabed. It was a find that reshaped our understanding of early European civilizations and maritime activity in the Bronze Age. Modern efforts to study Pavlopetri have embraced new technology. In 2009, researchers from the University of Nottingham and the Hellenic Ministry of Culture used digital mapping techniques to create a 3D model of the city. For the first time, people could walk through Pavlopetri, virtually strolling down its streets and entering its homes. The work revealed intricate construction and a level of planning rarely seen in such early settlements. Each scan brought us closer to a world thought lost. Thanks to this technology, the underwater city became more than a curiosity. It became a bridge connecting the distant past to the present, a reminder that the roots of human civilization stretch deeper and are more delicate than we often realize. Among the many wonders of Pavlopetri, one enduring mystery continues to intrigue historians and divers alike. There is no written record of the city, no scrolls, no tablets. No inscriptions remain to tell us the names of its inhabitants or the rituals they observed. Everything we know comes from the layout of their homes, the tools they left behind, and the way they organized their lives. This silence adds a haunting beauty to the site. The city speaks not in words, but in the echo of stone walls and the careful placement of rooms. There is something deeply human about this, the idea that we can know people not through their stories, but through the spaces they created and occupied. In Pavlopetri, the very bones of a forgotten world still whisper beneath the sea. The location of Pavlopetri also inspires the imagination. Standing on the coast of Laconia today, visitors can see the site with the naked eye, provided the sea is calm. The water is so clear that the outlines of buildings seem to float like shadows on the seabed. Divers describe a surreal experience, swimming over ancient streets and doorways, gliding past tombs built 4,000 years ago. It's as though the city is dreaming beneath the waves, half asleep in the currents of time. And perhaps it is. Perhaps Pavlopetri has never truly been lost, only waiting for us to look more closely. Efforts have been made to preserve and protect the site. As climate change and tourism increase pressure on the Mediterranean coast, archaeologists and local governments have called for measures to ensure that Pavlopetri is not damaged or eroded. Though it lies underwater, it is still vulnerable. Boats dragging anchors, pollution, or even careless divers could disrupt this fragile monument. In many ways, Pavlopetri teaches us not only about the past, but also about the importance of preserving our heritage for the future. The city is more than stone and sand. It is a message from another time, reminding us of how civilizations rise, adapt, and sometimes disappear. Interestingly, Pavlopetri may have inspired myths of sunken cities, such as Atlantis. While it's not as grand or mysterious as Plato's fictional island, the image of a real, well-preserved city beneath the sea resonates deeply with our collective imagination. It stirs something primal, the idea that the past is always closer than we think, hidden just beneath the surface, waiting to be uncovered. Perhaps every myth begins in some forgotten truth. In the case of Pavlopetri, that truth is now visible once more, glimmering in the clear blue waters of southern Greece. Visitors to the region often speak of a strange serenity that surrounds Pavlopetri. It's not a place of noise or spectacle. There are no towering columns or gilded artifacts, just quiet lines of stone, humble walls, and doorways that no longer open. And yet, the power of the place lies in its stillness. Pavlopetri does not shout its story, it whispers. It invites us to imagine, to reflect, to wonder. In doing so, it offers something precious, a glimpse of humanity unfiltered by time, presented not in legend but in fact. This is the real magic of archaeology, the ability to feel the presence of those who came before, not as abstractions, but as people like us. As the sun sets over the Peloponnese and the water glows with golden light, Pavlopetri rests as it has for millennia, quiet, patient, whole. It will likely remain there for many years to come, a gentle reminder of the passage of time and the endurance of human achievement. In a world that often rushes forward, places like Pavlopetri urge us to pause, to listen, and to remember. Because sometimes, the stories that whisper from beneath the waves are the ones we need most to hear. Atlantis. Somewhere beyond the Pillars of Hercules, across the quiet waves of a forgotten sea, lies the tale of a city shrouded in mystery and legend. Its name is whispered like a lullaby through time, Atlantis. A place that may have never existed, yet has lived more vibrantly in the human imagination than many cities that did. For thousands of years, poets, philosophers, sailors, and seekers have dreamed of it, a realm of dazzling beauty, perfect order, and tragic fate. Whether it was a myth, a metaphor, or a memory, Atlantis remains one of the most mesmerizing lost cities in all of history. Atlantis was said to exist beyond the western straits of the ancient Mediterranean world, what we now call the Strait of Gibraltar. According to the oldest surviving account, written by the Greek philosopher Plato in the 4th century BCE, Atlantis lay in the Atlantic Ocean, in a grand position between continents, once acting as a naval power and bridge between worlds. He called it a great island nation, larger than Libya and Asia combined, with fertile plains, majestic mountains, and endless fields blooming with life. Some modern theories place Atlantis near the Azores Islands, off the coast of Portugal. Others suggest it lies sunken beneath the sea near the Caribbean or Antarctica. Still, no evidence has ever confirmed its true location, and that ambiguity is what fuels its lasting allure. The story of Atlantis was first told by Plato in 2 of his dialogues, Timaeus and Critias. He described the city as having been built by a powerful and advanced civilization, one that was established by the god Poseidon himself. As the myth goes, Poseidon fell in love with a mortal woman named Cleito, and to protect her, he created the island of Atlantis and surrounded it with rings of water and land. Together, they had 5 pairs of twin sons. The eldest, Atlas, gave his name to the island and ruled over the central kingdom. The Atlanteans, descendants of gods and mortals, built grand palaces, stone temples, and towering walls. They tamed elephants, mined rare metals like orichalcum, and mastered both the seas and the skies. Their society was structured, harmonious, and wealthy beyond measure. Atlantis is said to have thrived around 9,000 years before Plato's own time, placing it roughly around 11,000 years ago, deep in prehistory. During this mysterious age, the Atlanteans were believed to have developed technologies and infrastructure far ahead of their time. Canals cut through the land to support agriculture. Bridges linked concentric rings of land across sparkling moats. Roads stretched from the heart of the city to the far corners of the island. Tall columns held up massive halls, and the people enjoyed not only abundance but peace. Their laws were just, their rulers wise, and their spirits noble, at least for a while. As the tale unfolds, it becomes clear that even paradise is not immune to corruption. In its golden age, Atlantis stood as a symbol of balance between nature, divinity, and humanity. But over generations, the people began to change. As they grew wealthier, their virtues began to fade. Greed, ambition, and arrogance took root. They began warring with other lands, seeking to conquer all in their path. The gods, angered by their pride and forgetting of higher laws, decided to bring Atlantis to an end. In Plato's telling, this once glorious island was destroyed in a single day and night of misfortune. The earth shook, great floods rose, the sea swallowed the land, and Atlantis vanished beneath the waves. Silence replaced its music, darkness replaced its light, and so it was lost, not just to history, but to memory. The loss of Atlantis wasn't like the loss of Pompeii or Troy. It was not dug up. It was not mapped. It simply became a story, a cautionary tale of hubris, a poetic reminder that even the greatest empires can fall when they forget humility. But for centuries, thinkers have wondered, was Plato describing a real place, or was Atlantis a metaphor for human weakness? Some have speculated he was inspired by older Egyptian or Mesopotamian records. Others think he may have woven different real disasters, like the volcanic destruction of the island of Thera, modern Santorini, into one grand tale. Many have searched for the lost city in the depths of the Atlantic or Mediterranean, from the Bahamas to Spain. But Atlantis, like a dream, always seems just out of reach. The rediscovery of Atlantis, then, has never happened in the way we think of with other lost cities. Instead, Atlantis is rediscovered over and over again. In literature, in movies, in dreams, and in the quiet wonder of people imagining what once could have been. Every time someone paints a mythical island with spires and waterfalls, every time a diver explores a ruin hidden beneath the sea, Atlantis is brought back into the world for a moment. It has become more than a city. It is an idea, a mirror held up to human civilization, a warning and a wish. One of the most fascinating mysteries surrounding Atlantis is how it continues to adapt across cultures and times. In the Renaissance, explorers used Plato's story to justify voyages into the unknown. In the 19th century, Atlantis became tied to theories of lost continents, ancient astronauts, and prehistoric superpowers. Some believe the Atlanteans were the first real civilization on Earth, spreading knowledge to Egypt, Mesoamerica, and beyond. Others think the entire tale is nothing more than philosophy dressed as history. And yet, the city's description, its architecture, its downfall, resonates across so many myths that one can't help but wonder if some part of it is based in truth. Could a great flood, passed down through generations, have formed the heart of the legend? Perhaps the most haunting detail of all is that Atlantis was described not as a utopia that remained perfect, but one that decayed from within. It wasn't destroyed by outside forces alone, it crumbled under its own pride. Plato used it to contrast the values of his own city, Athens, and to question what it means to be just. And so Atlantis isn't just a city we lost. It's a version of ourselves, a reminder that what we build, we must also nurture. That balance is delicate, and greatness, when corrupted, becomes fragile. As we drift farther into the soft folds of history and myth, the image of Atlantis continues to shimmer like sunlight on water. Never quite clear, never quite reachable, but always calling. Perhaps that's why it holds such power over the human heart. It represents the longing for a perfect world that once was, or might still be. A world where harmony reigned, where gods walked among mortals, where cities gleamed, and dreams were stone and sky. And though it may never be found on any map, Atlantis remains etched into our collective soul. Close your eyes, and listen to the waves. Somewhere in the quiet rhythm of the sea, in the lull between sleep and waking, Atlantis rises again, not as ruins, but as memory. Pompeii, nestled at the foot of a sleeping giant, in the shadow of Mount Vesuvius, there once lay a city full of life. Pompeii, a name that today stirs visions of ruins and ash, yet long ago, it was a bustling town of color, laughter, markets, and music. It was not a place of myth, but one very real, a place that echoed with the footsteps of people going about their daily lives, unaware that their world was on the edge of silence. For centuries, it remained hidden beneath a shroud of volcanic ash, perfectly preserved like a page frozen in time. Now, it whispers its stories softly to those who wander its ancient stone paths. Pompeii was located in southern Italy, near the Bay of Naples, in the Campania region. This area, known for its fertile lands and pleasant climate, was a prime location for settlements in ancient times. It lay just a few miles from the now infamous Mount Vesuvius. The city was surrounded by rolling hills, vineyards, and coastal winds. To live in Pompeii was to wake up to the scent of olives and sea air, to walk streets paved in lava stone, and to watch the towering mountain loom peacefully in the distance, majestic, and until that fateful day, harmless. The city of Pompeii was originally built by an Italic people known as the Oscans around the 7th or 6th century BCE. Later, it came under the influence of the Greeks, Etruscans, and finally the Romans, who fully integrated it into their empire. Under Roman rule, Pompeii became a flourishing town, with architecture, language, and culture aligning closely with Roman ideals. The people spoke Latin, followed Roman law, worshipped Roman gods, and lived lives that mirrored those in other parts of the empire, but perhaps with a bit more sunshine and wine. The Roman touch is seen in every column, mosaic, and archway still standing today. Pompeii reached the height of its prosperity during the 1st century AD, particularly under the reigns of Emperors Augustus and Tiberius. With a population of around 11,000 to 15,000 people, it was a thriving center of trade, agriculture, and leisure. Its economy was supported by the rich volcanic soil that nourished grapes and olives. Pompeii had theaters, temples, public baths, inns, and even a forum bustling with politics and commerce. Its citizens ranged from wealthy aristocrats with vast villas to humble craftsmen and slaves. Life here was vivid and varied. Festivals filled the streets, and murals told stories of gods, lovers, and daily joys. What made Pompeii truly special, though, was its remarkable blend of refinement and authenticity. Unlike the grandeur of Rome, Pompeii offered a more intimate glimpse into Roman life. The city was filled with art. Vibrant frescoes adorned the walls of homes, depicting everything from mythological tales to fruit bowls and birds. Statues and fountains stood in gardens. There were bakeries with stone ovens, fast food counters called thermopolia, and lavish bathhouses with intricate tile work. Even brothels and graffiti survive, reminding us that the people who lived there were not just historical figures, but fully human, with passions, humor, flaws, and dreams. Then, in the year 79 AD, everything changed. On a quiet summer day in late August, Mount Vesuvius, thought to be dormant, awoke. The eruption began with a thunderous sound, followed by a towering column of smoke, ash, and pumice that rose miles into the sky. By nightfall, darkness had fallen over the city as hot ash began to rain down. Many fled, but thousands stayed behind, trapped by confusion, disbelief, or simply the speed of the unfolding disaster. The next morning, a series of pyroclastic surges, fast-moving clouds of gas and debris, swept through Pompeii. It lasted only a few hours, and then all was silent. The city disappeared beneath layers of ash and pumice, buried more than 20 feet deep. Time moved forward, but Pompeii did not. It became a ghost beneath the earth. For nearly 1,700 years, it was forgotten, unmarked, and undisturbed. The fertile land above continued to be used for farming, unaware of the sleeping city below. Legends began to circulate, stories of a lost town swallowed by a mountain, but no one knew where it lay. The voices of Pompeii, once so lively, were silenced by stone. The rediscovery of Pompeii came slowly, almost accidentally. In 1599, during the digging of a canal, workers uncovered portions of the city. But it wasn't until 1748 that systematic excavation began under the direction of the Spanish engineer Joaquín de Alcubierre. Over the centuries that followed, archaeologists and historians revealed more and more of this hidden world. What they found astonished the world. Entire streets, homes, temples, and bodies, frozen at the moment of death. Furniture still stood in place. Food was found carbonized in pots. Wall paintings retained their color. Pompeii had become a time capsule, one of the most complete archaeological records of daily life in antiquity. One of the most haunting discoveries were the casts of victims. In the 19th century, archaeologist Giuseppe Fiorelli developed a method to inject plaster into the hollow spaces left by decomposed bodies in the ash. The result was chilling, detailed forms of people caught in their final moments. A child curled in fear, a man shielding his face, a dog still chained by its neck. These plaster forms gave the lost residents a kind of immortality. They remind us that the ancient world wasn't so different from ours. That love, fear, hope, and helplessness are eternal human truths. But beyond the tragedy lies beauty. The city that perished so suddenly also survived so completely. Through Pompeii, we walk into kitchens, we read graffiti, we see names etched into doorways. We see color, texture, emotion. It's as though the past is not distant, but just behind a curtain. We are offered a rare gift, to see a world not imagined or reconstructed, but real and raw and true. Pompeii does not speak in the grand language of monuments, but in the soft voices of lives lived, ordinary and extraordinary all at once. There are still debates about the exact number of people who died, and about the precise timeline of the eruption. Some evidence even suggests the eruption may have occurred in October, not August, as once believed. New discoveries continue to be made. Recent excavations have uncovered entire rooms, beautifully intact gardens, and even ancient street food stands. Pompeii is not just a relic. It is a living dig, offering fresh insight with every brush of dust. And in this way, the city continues to breathe. One especially fascinating detail is the personal belongings that were left behind. Jewelry still lies beside skeletons. Writing tablets remain in offices. There is evidence that people tried to carry their treasures with them, some perishing while clinging to household gods or coins. It's a quiet reminder of how much we value our homes, our memories, and our little comforts, even in our final hours. These artifacts are not just museum pieces, they are fragments of hearts, frozen in time. And now, as the moonlight falls softly on the ruins and the wind whispers through the ancient streets, one can almost hear the echoes of Pompeii. Footsteps across stone, laughter behind a painted wall, the rustle of fig trees. It is a place that reminds us of both the fragility and the resilience of life. A city lost in a moment, yet found in eternity. Sleep now, and let the story of Pompeii rest beside you. A city of ash, reborn in memory. Not lost, not gone, just waiting, quietly, under the stars.
Machu Picchu. High above the valleys of Peru, where clouds drift like whispers and mountains rise like stone giants, rests a city built among the heavens. This place is Machu Picchu, a name that echoes with reverence and wonder. Hidden for centuries in the folds of the Andes Mountains, it is a city of mystery, majesty, and sacred silence. Carved by human hands but embraced by nature, Machu Picchu was not just a city, but a living breath of the ancient Incan world. Today, it stands as one of the most awe-inspiring archaeological sites on Earth, quietly inviting all who see it to listen to the stillness and remember the past. Machu Picchu lies in the Andes of southern Peru, in a region known as the Sacred Valley. It sits perched on a narrow mountain ridge nearly 8,000 feet above sea level, between two peaks, Huayna Picchu and Machu Picchu Mountain. Surrounded on all sides by steep cliffs and lush, mist-covered forests, the site overlooks the winding Urubamba River far below. The landscape here is otherworldly, rugged, green, and ethereal. With condors soaring overhead and clouds drifting through stone doorways, it feels less like a ruin and more like a dream made real. This extraordinary city was built by the Inca civilization, a mighty empire that once stretched along the western spine of South America. The Incas were master builders, astronomers, and administrators. They worshipped the sun, honored the mountains, and believed deeply in the harmony of man and nature. Machu Picchu is thought to have been commissioned by the Incan Emperor Pachacuti in the mid-15th century, around the year 1450. The construction itself was a marvel, achieved without the use of iron tools, the wheel, or written language. Everything was built through memory, precision, and sheer human effort. During its time, Machu Picchu thrived not as a large urban center, but as a royal estate, a sacred retreat for the emperor and the Incan elite. It was likely used for religious ceremonies, agricultural experimentation, and astronomy. The city contained temples, terraces, fountains, and living quarters, all built with incredible skill. Stones were cut so perfectly that they fit together without mortar, resisting even the strongest earthquakes. In a culture that revered the earth as sacred, this seamless connection between stone and landscape was a form of spiritual expression. Every structure felt like a prayer in stone. One of the most striking features of Machu Picchu is how effortlessly it blends into its environment. Instead of overpowering nature, it harmonizes with it. The city's terraces hug the mountain's curves. Its windows frame the sunrise during the solstice. The Intihuatana stone, a ritual pillar carved from bedrock, may have been used as a solar clock. The Incas did not simply build on the land, they listened to it. They honored the mountain, the river, the sky. Machu Picchu feels less like a construction and more like a collaboration between humans and nature. Yet despite its beauty and power, the city did not last forever. Machu Picchu was abandoned by the Incas just a century after it was built. The exact reason remains unknown. Some scholars suggest it was vacated around the time of the Spanish conquest in the 1530s, though there is no evidence that the Spanish ever found the site. Others believe that a combination of disease, social collapse, or strategic retreat led the Incas to leave this high sanctuary behind. Whatever the cause, the city slipped into silence, reclaimed slowly by vines, moss, and time. For nearly 400 years, Machu Picchu remained hidden from the wider world. While local Quechua people always knew of its existence, the overgrown ruins were all but invisible to outsiders. Stories of a lost city in the clouds persisted, passed down through generations like gentle myths. Then, in 1911, an American historian named Hiram Bingham, guided by local farmers and shepherds, climbed the steep trails and stepped into the forgotten city. What he saw changed the world, a nearly intact Incan city, untouched by Spanish hands, resting in quiet solitude above the clouds. The rediscovery of Machu Picchu captured imaginations across the globe. It offered a window into a world that had remained undisturbed for centuries. Since then, archaeologists, historians, and spiritual seekers have made the journey into the mountains to uncover its secrets. Though many questions remain, each stone, each terrace, each carved niche tells a part of a story, about a people who lived in balance with the land, who reached for the stars while remaining rooted in the earth. One of the most fascinating aspects of Machu Picchu is what it continues to conceal. Even now, scholars debate its true purpose. Was it a royal estate? A sacred temple complex? A center for agricultural research? Or perhaps all of these at once? The city's layout suggests deep astronomical knowledge and ritual precision. Water channels still flow with mountain spring water. Temples align with celestial events. There is something almost cosmic about how the city was designed, as though it was built not only to shelter life, but to celebrate its mysteries. There are no written records left by the Incas, which leaves much of Machu Picchu's story open to interpretation. But perhaps that is part of its magic. The city invites not only analysis, but imagination.
It invite silence.
In the quiet halls where priests once whispered to the sun, in the plazas where llamas now roam freely, in the stairways that lead into clouds, there is a presence. It feels like memory. It feels like reverence. It feels like the mountain still remembers what the world has forgotten. Machu Picchu also carries a modern mystery, how it survived untouched by the Spanish, who conquered so much of the Incan world. Some believe it was simply too remote to be discovered. Others think it may have been protected intentionally, its location kept secret by loyal followers. The absence of colonial damage makes it uniquely precious. Unlike other ruins, Machu Picchu was never transformed, never rebuilt, never repurposed. It remains as it was.
A pure echo of the past.
Today, visitors from every corner of the world make the journey to see Machu Picchu. Some arrive by train, others trek the ancient Inca Trail. As they rise into the mountains, there is a feeling of stepping back in time, or perhaps stepping outside of time altogether. When the mists part and the stone city reveals itself, it takes the breath away. It's not just the beauty, It's the silence. It's the way the city speaks without words. You feel it more than you see it. Yet even this wonder must be protected. The increasing number of tourists has raised concerns about preservation. Steps are now being taken to limit damage, restore fragile areas, and honor the site's spiritual and cultural meaning. Machu Picchu is not just a tourist destination. It is a sacred place, a symbol of resilience, and a reminder of humanity's deep connection to the earth and sky. In one of the dwellings near the Temple of the Sun, a small stone ledge still catches the morning light. In the open plaza, ancient footprints have worn smooth the stone paths. On a quiet day, if you close your eyes, you can almost hear the wind carry the chants of those who came before. The same sun still rises over the same peaks. The same river still winds below. Machu Picchu remains, as patient as it is eternal. And so, as you rest tonight, let your mind wander gently through those high mountain corridors. Picture the green terraces bathed in mist. Feel the stillness of the sacred rock. Imagine the stars above the Andes, guiding Incan astronomers as they once did centuries ago. Machu Picchu may have been lost to time, but it was never forgotten. It waits for dreamers, for seekers, and for silence. Close your eyes now. Let the mountain cradle your thoughts. Let the stone paths lead you into sleep. For somewhere above the clouds, the lost city still watches, still listens, and still remembers.
Petra, Jordan.
Nestled between rose-colored cliffs in the vast sun-drenched desert of southern Jordan lies the city of Petra, a place that feels like a dream carved in stone. As moonlight spills over the barren mountains and sand whispers through narrow gorges, the silence seems to carry with it a forgotten world. Petra is a city that doesn't just belong to history, it belongs to legend. Travelers who wander its ancient paths often speak of feeling a profound stillness, as though they've stepped out of time into a world that was never meant to be found again. Tucked away in the harsh desert, Petra was once the thriving heart of a powerful civilization. Long before it became a wonder for modern eyes, it stood as the pride of the Nabateans, a mysterious and remarkably skilled people who rose to prominence in the Arabian Peninsula. With knowledge of the desert that few could rival, they transformed Petra into a flourishing oasis. They were not conquerors or kings of empire in the traditional sense. Instead, they were masters of trade, navigating the vast and brutal terrain with camels laden with goods, spices, silk, incense, and precious stones, all passing through Petra, making it one of the wealthiest cities of the ancient world. The Nabateans, who built Petra, had a gift not just for commerce but for engineering. Despite living in one of the most arid regions on Earth, they created an advanced water system that turned this dry valley into a haven. Their aqueducts, cisterns, and dams captured every drop of rain and channeled it where needed, ensuring the survival of a bustling population. The city they carved into sandstone was not a place of haste, it was a masterpiece shaped by patient hands and careful minds. Their most iconic creation, the treasury, or Al-Khazna, looms at the end of a narrow passage called the Sikh. With its ornate facade and Hellenistic design, it looks less like a tomb and more like a temple built for gods. Petra thrived from the 4th century BCE through the first few centuries of the Common Era. As the Nabateans expanded their reach, Petra became a cultural crossroads, where east met west, and caravans came to rest. The city was a marvel not only of architecture and wealth, but also of peace and openness. Greek, Roman, Egyptian, and local Arab influences blended into its art and design, making it a unique canvas of cultural unity in a fragmented world. But like all great cities of the past, Petra's light would one day dim. The question is not if it would fade, but when and why. Petra's decline came slowly at first, like a candle flickering low before the wind takes hold. As Roman influence grew, they annexed Nabatea in 106 CE. While Petra remained important for a time, its independence was gone. Trade routes shifted, with the rise of sea-based trade diminishing Petra's land-based importance. Over time, earthquakes rocked the region, destroying vital infrastructure and driving people away. One of the most devastating quakes occurred around 363 CE, shattering much of the city's stone-built grandeur. Petra was gradually abandoned, not in a single moment of disaster, but in the slow erosion of relevance. The desert, patient and eternal, crept in to reclaim the stones. Sand and silence took the place of song and ceremony. By the early Islamic period, Petra had mostly vanished from maps and minds. It became a whispered memory, known only to the nomads who passed by the hidden valley. Centuries passed. And then, in the year 1812, a young Swiss explorer named Johann Ludwig Burckhardt arrived in the Middle East with a curiosity that wouldn't let him rest. He had heard stories, tales told by Bedouins, of a forgotten city hidden within the canyons. Posing as an Arab scholar, he persuaded a local guide to take him through the sick, claiming he wished to offer a sacrifice at the tomb of Aaron, the brother of Moses. As he emerged into the open, and the rose-red treasury revealed itself before him, Burckhardt became one of the first outsiders in many hundreds of years to lay eyes on Petra. He could scarcely believe what he saw, a ghost city sculpted into mountains, as though the earth had been coaxed into architecture. Even after its rediscovery, Petra remained mysterious. Excavations took time. The world was stunned to learn of the vast necropolises, the intricate tombs, the theater carved from solid rock, and the hidden high place of sacrifice. And yet, despite the science, despite the maps and research papers, Petra never lost its enchantment. It is still said that to enter Petra at dawn, when the rising sun touches the sandstone cliffs and paints them in gold and crimson hues, is to witness the city awakening once more. The stones seem to glow, and shadows whisper through the wind-swept halls, as if the past lingers just out of sight. What makes Petra uniquely haunting is that so much of it is still shrouded in questions. How exactly did the Nabateans learn to harness the desert in such a sophisticated way? Why did they choose this remote location? Were they guarding something more than wealth? Some believe the treasury was never a tomb at all, but a hidden vault, a place where something of immense importance was kept safe. Legends tell of treasure sealed away, of scrolls containing forgotten knowledge. While these may be myths, they keep Petra alive in the imagination, where wonder is just as important as fact. One cannot walk through Petra and not feel the weight of time pressing gently against the soul. The echo of footsteps on ancient stone, the fading inscriptions in long-lost scripts, the silence that sings louder than any voice, it all seems designed to invite reflection. This city, lost and found again, is more than a relic of the past. It is a reminder that beauty, once created, never truly disappears. Even buried under centuries of sand, it waits. And when the time is right, it rises again, ready to be rediscovered. In the end, Petra is not just a place. It is a feeling of awe, of solitude, of standing still while centuries move around you. As you drift deeper into the folds of sleep, picture the rose-red city not by day, but by starlight. Let your breath slow as the desert winds soften. Imagine walking through the sick once more, your footsteps light, the walls glowing faintly, and the treasury waiting for you at the end. A doorway, perhaps, not just to the past, but to a dream.
Angkor, Cambodia.
In the heart of Southeast Asia, tucked within the lush jungles of modern-day Cambodia, lies the haunting beauty of a city that once thrived as the spiritual and political center of a vast empire. Angkor, as it is known, was more than just a city. It was the beating heart of the Khmer Empire, a civilization that left behind awe-inspiring temples, intricate bas-reliefs, and a profound legacy that continues to captivate the world. As moonlight filters through the thick canopy above and the sound of distant crickets echoes through the night, let us gently drift back in time to a place where gods walked among kings, and stones seemed to breathe with divine purpose. The city of Angkor rests near the modern town of Siem Reap in northwestern Cambodia. Today, the area is a serene expanse of ruins, roots, and silent stone faces gazing out over centuries. But long ago, this same ground was alive with chanting monks, the clatter of markets, and the glimmer of sacred processions. Stretching across hundreds of square kilometers, Angkor wasn't just one city. It was an entire complex of cities and temples, connected by grand causeways, moats, and reservoirs, all constructed with a level of precision and ambition that still leaves archaeologists speechless. The great city was built by the Khmer Empire, a powerful and sophisticated civilization that ruled much of mainland Southeast Asia from the 9th to the 15th century. The Khmers were not only skilled builders but also brilliant engineers, astronomers, and artists. They channeled water through massive hydraulic systems, grew abundant rice crops to feed their population, and carved deities into stone with such care and elegance that their temples appear less like ruins and more like sanctuaries frozen in time. It was under King Jayavarman II, often considered the empire's founder, that Angkor began its ascent to glory, and over the centuries, successive kings expanded and embellished it into a spectacle of grandeur and devotion. Angkor truly thrived between the 9th and 13th centuries. During this golden age, kings such as Suryavarman II and Jayavarman VII left their indelible marks. Suryavarman II constructed the majestic Angkor Wat, a temple complex so immense that even today, it is considered the largest religious structure in the world. Built as a Hindu temple to honor Vishnu, its towers resemble the peaks of Mount Meru, the home of the gods in Hindu mythology. Later, Jayavarman VII, a devout Buddhist, constructed the city of Angkor Thom and the enigmatic Bayon Temple, with its countless serene stone faces that seem to watch the jungle with eternal calm. These were not mere buildings, they were cosmic replicas, sacred landscapes carved into earth, aligning human life with celestial order. What made Angkor so unique was not just its architecture, but the vision behind it. The Khmers believed in a divine harmony between heaven and earth, and they expressed this belief through their city planning. Every temple, every pond, every road was placed with meaning. Massive barrays, or water reservoirs, mirrored the heavens and irrigated the land. The empire's spiritual cosmology was literally etched into the ground. It was as though the city itself was a prayer, an offering to the gods, to maintain balance between the mortal and the divine. Walking through its ruins today, one still feels that harmony, quiet and intact, like a lullaby hummed by the stones themselves. Yet, as with many great civilizations, Angkor's brilliance slowly dimmed. The reasons for its decline remain a quiet puzzle. There was no single event, no cataclysmic war or fiery explosion. Instead, it appears the city slipped away over time, as if retreating gently into the forest. Environmental challenges played a significant role. Scholars believe that prolonged droughts, followed by devastating floods, strained the city's vast water management system. The once reliable monsoon patterns became erratic, and the sophisticated infrastructure began to crumble under the weight of nature's unpredictability. Without water, crops failed. Without crops, the population declined. And with fewer people to maintain the canals and dikes, the entire system began to unravel. In addition to environmental challenges, external pressures also chipped away at the empire's strength. In the 15th century, the city was likely attacked by rival forces, possibly the Ayutthaya kingdom from what is now Thailand. Records from the time are scarce and fragmented, but they suggest a steady abandonment rather than a single devastating blow. By the late 1400s, Angkor was no longer the bustling heart of the Khmer world. The capital moved south, closer to Phnom Penh, and the temples of Angkor were left behind, slowly embraced by vines and roots, shrouded in quiet green solitude. For centuries, the jungle reclaimed the city, vines wrapping around towers, trees splitting stone, as nature tucked the past gently under its leafy canopy. Though the local Khmer people never truly forgot Angkor, it faded from the outside world's memory. It wasn't until the 19th century that European explorers and scholars, wandering through the dense Cambodian forest, stumbled upon its astonishing remains. In 1860, French naturalist Henri Mouhot is often credited with introducing Angkor to the West, though Cambodian people had long known of its presence. Mouhot's detailed sketches and journal entries captured the imagination of an era hungry for discovery. He described the temples with awe, likening them to the ruins of ancient Greece and Egypt, and his writings sparked a wave of fascination that brought Angkor back into the global consciousness. Since then, archaeologists, historians, and preservationists have worked tirelessly to uncover and protect the city's secrets. Restoration efforts have uncovered not just temples, but homes, roads, statues, and inscriptions, fragments of a forgotten world pieced together with patience and care. Today, Angkor what stands as a symbol of Cambodia itself, appearing proudly on the national flag, its grandeur no longer lost but lovingly remembered. And yet, even as tourists walk its corridors and marvel at its towers, a quiet reverence remains. One of the most fascinating mysteries surrounding Angkor is the purpose of the stone faces at Bayon Temple. With their half-smiles and downward gazes, these serene visages are thought to represent Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva of compassion. But some scholars believe they may also be portraits of King Jayavarman VII himself, rendered as a divine being. The ambiguity only adds to their allure. Standing in their presence feels like entering a silent conversation between the mortal and the sacred. And perhaps that is Angkor's greatest magic, its ability to blur the line between history and myth, between reality and dream. As the moon casts its silver glow over the moss-covered stones, and the shadows of banyan trees stretch across the temple walls, one can almost hear the chants of monks long gone, echoing softly in the night air. Angkor may have been lost for a time, but it was never forgotten. Its stones still speak, not in words, but in wonder. It reminds us that even in silence, stories endure. And so we leave Angkor with a gentle breath, carrying with us not just the memory of an empire, but the feeling of timelessness, the kind that tucks you in gently as you drift into sleep. Tikal, Guatemala. Deep in the lush heart of the Guatemalan rainforest, where the air hangs thick with moisture and bird calls echo through the dense canopy, the city of Tikal once thrived in mysterious grandeur. Today, it lies still and quiet, reclaimed in part by the very forest that once surrounded its bustling avenues. The massive stone pyramids, towering temples, and intricate plazas whisper secrets of a civilization long vanished into time. Tikal is not just a ruin, it is a reminder of how power and beauty can rise from the jungle, only to be swallowed again by it. Here, among the howler monkeys and ceiba trees, the story of the Maya lingers like a soft wind rustling ancient leaves. Tikal was nestled in what is now northern Guatemala, within the Petén Basin. Surrounded by thick jungle on all sides, its remote location shielded it from the eyes of outsiders for centuries. But during its height, the city was far from isolated. It was a thriving hub of trade, politics, and religious ceremony, connected to other great Mayan cities like Calakmul and Caracol. This location, rich in natural resources and fertile soils, gave rise to one of the most powerful centers of Maya civilization, a city that would eventually dominate much of the surrounding region. The people who built Tikal were the ancient Maya, a civilization known for its sophisticated understanding of astronomy, its complex writing system, and its awe-inspiring architecture. The Maya were not a single unified empire, but rather a web of interconnected city-states, each with its own ruler, its own gods, and its own stories. Tikal was one of the brightest stars in this constellation of cities. It rose to prominence around 400 BCE and would continue to grow and evolve for nearly 1,000 years. The Maya saw their cities as sacred spaces, and Tikal was no exception. Built as a place where humans could communicate with the gods, every stone structure was imbued with spiritual meaning. At its height, around 700 CE, Tikal was home to perhaps 100,000 people, an astonishing number considering the limitations of the time. The city covered more than 60 square miles, with its heart filled with ceremonial plazas, towering pyramids, and ball courts. The skyline was dominated by steep temples that seemed to scrape the heavens. Temple I, the Temple of the Great Jaguar, rose over 150 feet into the sky and served not just as a burial place for kings, but as a stage for rituals that shaped the lives of all who lived there. These structures were not just engineering feats, they were living expressions of power, devotion, and cosmic order. One of the most striking features of Tikal was its harmonious relationship with the natural world. The Maya did not have beasts of burden or wheeled transport. Every stone was moved by human hands, each path cleared through sheer will and ingenuity. They designed reservoirs to capture rainwater and terrace the land to grow maize, beans, and squash, crops that formed the backbone of their diet and culture. Their deep understanding of the land around them allowed them to thrive in a place that might seem inhospitable to modern eyes. But even cities carved from stone are not immune to the passage of time. The decline of Tikal began slowly, like a shadow lengthening across the ground. By the 9th century, the city's population began to dwindle. The once busy plazas fell silent, the temples no longer rang with chants and drums. Scholars still debate the reasons. Perhaps it was prolonged drought, worsened by deforestation and soil erosion. Perhaps it was war with neighboring cities or internal political collapse. More likely, it was a combination of these, a slow unraveling rather than a sudden catastrophe. What is known is that, by around 950 CE, the city was largely abandoned. Jungle vines crept over walls, and roots cracked the once grand steps of temples. Tikal faded not in fire, but in silence. 4 centuries after its fall, Tikal lay hidden beneath layers of soil and vegetation. Locals in the region knew of the ruins, of course. Some even ventured into the forest and spoke of strange stone giants and forgotten gods. But to the wider world, Tikal had become a myth. That changed in the mid-19th century, when explorers, inspired by tales from native guides, began to make their way into the dense jungle. In 1848, a Guatemalan team led by Modesto Mendez and Ambrosio Tut documented and sketched many of the structures, sparking interest in what they had found. Over the decades, archaeologists, adventurers, and scholars would follow, peeling back the jungle to reveal one of the greatest cities of the ancient world. Modern archaeology has brought Tikal back into the light, though it still holds many secrets. Today, only a fraction of the city has been fully excavated. Beneath the forest floor lie thousands of hidden structures, many still unexplored. Advances in technology, like LiDAR scanning, have shown just how vast and intricate the city once was. Entire neighborhoods, roadways, and temples, previously invisible, have come into view. These discoveries continue to reshape our understanding of Maya civilization and challenge the assumptions of what ancient people were capable of. Tikal is full of mysteries, but one in particular continues to fascinate researchers. Despite having no metal tools, no draft animals, and no modern machinery, the Maya managed to build towering pyramids with perfect alignment to celestial bodies. Temple 4, for example, the tallest structure at Tikal, aligns with the setting sun on the winter solstice. The Maya observed the skies with such precision that they created calendars more accurate than the ones used in Europe for centuries. And they encoded their knowledge into a complex writing system, much of which has only recently been deciphered. What secrets still lie locked in the glyphs carved into Tikal's stone stele? What rituals were performed beneath the moonlight on its high terraces? We may never know the full answers. Even now, standing within Tikal feels like stepping into a different time. The air is filled with the sounds of birds and distant howler monkeys. Mist clings to the tree branches in the early morning. The temples rise from the forest like the backs of great sleeping beasts. There's a sense of reverence that hangs over the ruins, as if the city remembers its past and holds it close. Tourists walk among the ruins, but they do so with quiet awe. The city that once echoed with the voices of thousands now speaks in whispers, and those who listen can almost hear the chants of priests, the laughter of children, the thunder of ancient footsteps on stone. Tikal is more than just a place. It is a story carved in limestone, a memory etched into the earth. It tells us about the brilliance of the Maya, about their connection to the stars and to the land. It reminds us that even the greatest cities can vanish, not in a flash of destruction, but in a gradual return to nature. And in doing so, it humbles us, reminding us of our place in the grand rhythm of time. Close your eyes, and imagine the rainforest as it once was, alive with ceremony, music, and color. Picture the pyramids towering above the trees, lit by firelight and starlight. Feel the weight of history in every step you take among the ruins. Tikal may be lost in time, but in our dreams, in our curiosity, and in our quiet wonder, it is forever found. Babylon, Iraq, legendary ancient Mesopotamian city. Under the warm sun of the ancient Mesopotamian plains, nestled between the life-giving waters of the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, there once stood a city whose name would echo across millennia, Babylon. Its very mention conjures visions of towering walls, mythical gardens, and a society that pulsed with the early rhythms of civilization. It was not merely a city, but a cradle of culture and power, known throughout the ancient world as a beacon of knowledge, ambition, and human endeavor. Babylon was located in what is now modern-day Iraq, about 85 kilometers south of Baghdad. The land surrounding it was lush and fertile, enriched by the rivers that carved the Mesopotamian valley and made it the perfect setting for the birth of some of the earliest complex societies. It was here, in the heart of the Fertile Crescent, that people learned to grow crops, build cities, and write the first lines of history on clay tablets. Babylon did not just benefit from this environment, it defined it. The city's location made it a nexus of trade, language, and power, drawing influences from all around the ancient Near East. The builders of Babylon were the Babylonians themselves, descendants of the Sumerians and Akkadians who had previously laid the cultural groundwork in the region. Over time, Babylon grew under the hands of kings who envisioned a world-class capital. Among these rulers, one name towers above the rest: King Hammurabi. Reigning around 1792 BCE, Hammurabi is remembered not only for expanding Babylon into a powerful empire but also for his code of laws, one of the first written legal systems. Later, under King Nebuchadnezzar II in the 6th century BCE, Babylon reached its architectural and cultural zenith. It was during his reign that the city was adorned with magnificent buildings, including the Ishtar Gate and what was believed to be the Hanging Gardens, one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. At its height, Babylon was a marvel. Its city walls, reportedly wide enough for chariots to race upon, stood as symbols of strength and protection. The famed Ishtar Gate, glazed with blue bricks and decorated with images of lions, dragons, and bulls, welcomed visitors into a world of splendor. Inside, majestic temples rose in honor of gods like Marduk, the chief deity of the Babylonian pantheon. At the center of it all stood the towering Etemenanki, a ziggurat believed to have inspired the biblical story of the Tower of Babel. Babylon wasn't just a city, it was a statement of human potential, art, religion, science, and administration thriving together in harmony. But even the greatest of cities are not immune to the tides of time. The decline of Babylon was gradual, a tale written not in one great disaster, but in the slow shifting of power, politics, and priorities. After Nebuchadnezzar's reign, the city began to fade. Conquered by the Persian king Cyrus the Great in 539 BCE, Babylon retained some of its glory under foreign rule, but its independence and identity were forever changed. Over centuries, invasions, internal decay, and the rise of new centers of power gradually stripped Babylon of its former splendor. By the time of Alexander the Great, who sought to make Babylon his capital but died before realizing that vision, the city was already losing its soul. Eventually, it was abandoned, left to be swallowed by the sands of time and forgotten by the world that once revered it. For centuries, the ruins of Babylon lay buried beneath layers of dust and legend. Travelers and scholars passed near them, inspired by stories from the Bible and ancient texts, yet uncertain of the city's exact location. It wasn't until the 19th century that archaeological efforts began in earnest. German archaeologist Robert Koldewey led one of the most important excavations starting in 1899, uncovering parts of the city's walls, palaces, temples, and the magnificent Ishtar Gate. Many of the gate's bricks were later transported to Berlin, where the reconstructed gate now stands in the Pergamon Museum, a stunning, bittersweet reminder of the ancient city's greatness. Even today, parts of Babylon remain under excavation, revealing layer upon layer of human history. Among the many stories and mysteries surrounding Babylon, the legend of the Hanging Gardens stands out. Described by ancient writers as a series of lush, terraced gardens built to please Nebuchadnezzar's wife, who missed her mountainous homeland, these gardens have never been definitively found. Some scholars even debate whether they existed at all, suggesting they might have been confused with gardens from another city, like Nineveh. Still, the imagery remains powerful, a verdant paradise suspended in the heart of a desert kingdom, kept alive through ancient engineering and love. Whether fact or fable, the tale reflects Babylon's ability to inspire imagination, to live on in myth as much as in stone. Today, standing amid the scattered ruins of Babylon, one can almost hear the echoes of footsteps on ancient streets, the chants of priests in sacred temples, the voices of scribes etching laws into clay. The city may no longer rise with golden towers or bustling markets, but its spirit lingers in the collective memory of humankind. Babylon was not just a city, it was a symbol of what early civilization could achieve, of the fragility of greatness, and of the eternal quest for meaning and order in the world. As you drift gently into sleep, let your thoughts wander through the golden sands and silent stones of Babylon. Imagine the shimmer of stars over the Euphrates River, the warm wind whispering through crumbling walls, and the timeless beauty of a city that once dared to touch the heavens. Carthage, Tunisia. Long ago, along the warm, wind-swept coast of North Africa, there once stood a city of immense power, beauty, and ambition. A place where the scent of sea salt met the sound of bustling markets, and where ships from every corner of the Mediterranean docked with goods, ideas, and dreams. This was Carthage, a name that would echo through history as both a symbol of extraordinary achievement and tragic destruction. The ruins that sleep beneath the Tunisian soil today were once the proud heart of a mighty empire, an empire that dared to rival even Rome. But before the fall came centuries of splendor. Carthage was born from the sea and shaped by its waves. Its origins trace back to the 9th century BCE, when a group of Phoenician settlers, sailors and traders from the ancient city of Tyre, in modern-day Lebanon, sailed westward in search of new lands. Led, as legend tells us, by the courageous Queen Dido, they arrived on the shores of a fertile promontory jutting into the Mediterranean. Here they laid the foundation of Carthage, which in their own tongue meant new city. Though small at first, it would grow with the rhythm of the tides, spreading its influence like ripples across the sea. As centuries passed, Carthage blossomed into the crown jewel of Phoenician colonization. It rose not just as a city, but as the centerpiece of a civilization, the Carthaginians. Known for their maritime prowess, they created a trade empire that stretched from the coasts of Spain to the islands of Sicily and Sardinia. Carthage became a hub where cultures met, where Greek pottery was exchanged for Egyptian linen, and where Berber shepherds mingled with Iberian miners. Its harbor, an engineering marvel, featured 2 circular ports, one for merchants, another for the navy, guarded by high walls and accessed through a narrow channel. It was said to accommodate over 200 ships, each ready to carry the spirit of Carthage to distant shores. Life in Carthage thrived under the warmth of the sun and the shade of towering date palms. Its people worshipped gods with rich rituals, and chief among them was Baal Hammon, often paired with the goddess Tanit, symbols of fertility, weather, and the cycle of life. Temples soared above marketplaces, and streets teemed with traders, scholars, and artisans. They developed their own script, adapted from Phoenician, and their own form of government, with powerful councils and magistrates. Carthage was not just a city of war and commerce, it was a city of thought, faith, and structure. A beacon of North African civilization. But with growth comes conflict, and Carthage's ambitions soon led it into a struggle that would define its fate, the Punic Wars. These were no ordinary conflicts. They were three titanic clashes between Carthage and the rising Republic of Rome, fought over decades, across continents. The most famous of these wars gave the world one of its greatest military minds, Hannibal Barca. With determination burning in his heart, Hannibal led an army, complete with war elephants, across the Alps to strike at Rome from the north. His campaigns shocked the Romans and won him eternal fame, but ultimately, they did not win Carthage the war. Following years of battles, sieges, and shifting fortunes, Rome tightened its grip. The final blow came in 146 BCE, when Roman legions, under the command of Scipio Aemilianus, laid siege to Carthage itself. For 3 years, the city resisted. Its citizens, men, women, and children, fought with desperate courage. But the end was inevitable. The Romans breached the walls, set the city ablaze, and slaughtered or enslaved its people. Legend claims the Romans salted the earth so nothing would grow again, though historians debate the truth of this detail. What is certain is that Carthage, as it was, ceased to exist. A great light was extinguished. Centuries passed, and the once proud city fell silent. Sand and time covered its stones. The winds that once carried sails now whispered only through empty ruins. But Carthage would not remain lost forever. In the shadow of Roman Carthage, a city later rebuilt by Julius Caesar and expanded under Augustus, the ancient foundation slumbered, waiting. It wasn't until the 19th and 20th centuries that archaeologists, armed with curiosity and careful tools, began to peel back the layers of history. What they found astonished the world: remnants of harbors, temples, homes, and sacred places. Fragments of pottery still bearing the fingerprints of their makers. Walls that once held back enemies and welcomed traders. Perhaps the most haunting discoveries were those linked to Carthaginian religion. At a site known as the Tophet, urns filled with the ashes of infants and animals were unearthed, sparking intense debate. Were these offerings, sacrifices, or something else entirely? Some scholars suggest ritual killings, others argue for ceremonial burials of those who died naturally. The mystery endures, casting shadows and stirring questions about the soul of this ancient society. In these questions, Carthage lives on, not only in stone but in story, memory, and wonder. There is something deeply poetic about Carthage. A city that rose from Phoenician dreams, built a network across oceans, stood toe-to-toe with Rome, and then fell, only to be rediscovered and remembered long after the empires that destroyed it had vanished. Today, the ruins lie under open skies near modern Tunis. Tourists wander its archaeological park, and children play where warriors once stood. The scent of the sea still drifts in, carrying with it echoes of markets, prayers, and the march of soldiers. Carthage may no longer command fleets, but it commands the imagination. And so, as night gently settles, imagine the city by moonlight. Stone columns casting long shadows. The whisper of waves against ancient docks. The hush of time folding over the memories of a civilization that once dared to challenge the world. Sleep comes easily here, where even ruins can tell stories, and the dreams of Carthage drift like sails across a silent sea. Akrotiri, Greece, Minoan city buried in a volcanic eruption. Tucked away on the sun-drenched island of Santorini in the Aegean Sea lies a place that once flourished with life, color, and culture, a city called Akrotiri. Its stone walls and winding pathways, now quiet and still, whisper stories from over 3,500 years ago. The air there carries the scent of salt and history, and the silence of the ruins tells more than words ever could. Once bustling with artisans, merchants, and dreamers, Akrotiri has become a remarkable time capsule, forever paused in the moment before it vanished beneath layers of volcanic ash. Akrotiri is located in modern-day Greece, on the southern edge of Santorini, a crescent-shaped island that curves gently around a deep volcanic caldera. Thousands of years ago, this land looked different. The island was not shaped like a broken ring, but more like a single solid piece of earth rising proudly from the sea. The Aegean shimmered around it, and trade routes passed through its ports, making it a vibrant hub for ideas, commerce, and connection. Akrotiri thrived in this space, a place both beautiful and strategically important, resting at the crossroads between Europe, Asia, and Africa. The people who built and lived in Akrotiri belonged to the Minoan civilization. Though the city lies on what we now call a Greek island, the culture that shaped it radiated outward from Crete, the heart of the Minoan world. These people were masterful seafarers and sophisticated builders, known for their art, architecture, and the peaceful rhythm of their society. Their city planning was ahead of its time. They constructed multi-storied buildings, painted their walls with vivid frescoes, and even developed one of the world's earliest known plumbing systems. Every stone laid in Akrotiri was placed with purpose and care, reflecting a society that valued both function and beauty. Akrotiri's golden age is believed to have been between 2000 BCE and 1600 BCE, when it flourished as a thriving town. During this period, its people engaged in trade across the Mediterranean, exchanging olive oil, wine, and fine pottery for exotic goods from distant lands. Their artistry was exquisite, and their homes were filled with vibrant murals that depicted dolphins, antelopes, women gathering saffron, and scenes of daily life that have survived the millennia. This wasn't just a practical place, it was a celebration of life itself. And as it grew, Akrotiri became one of the most advanced urban centers of its time, humming with commerce and culture, all nestled in the embrace of the Aegean. What made Akrotiri so special wasn't just its architecture or its art, though both were extraordinary. It was the way the city reflected the soul of its people. The buildings were designed with thoughtful layout, allowing for open courtyards, airy spaces, and private upper floors. There were no fortifications around the city, suggesting that its people lived in relative peace and security. The plumbing system, with pipes for both hot and cold water, points to an understanding of comfort and hygiene that few ancient cities could match. But perhaps most extraordinary of all was the aesthetic sense woven into every part of the town. Frescoes alive with movement and color, lovingly painted on walls that still stand today. But even the most thriving cities can fall silent. Around 1600 BCE, a catastrophe unlike any other befell Akrotiri. It began subtly, with rumblings beneath the earth. The island of Santorini, known in ancient times as Thera, sat atop a volcano that had lain quiet for centuries. But now, the ground trembled with growing urgency.
The sky darkened.
And then, without warning, the volcano erupted in one of the most powerful explosions in human history. The force of the blast was so immense that it shattered the island itself, sending ash, pumice, and molten rock soaring miles into the air. The eruption devastated the region, creating tsunamis that reached distant shores. Akrotiri was buried almost instantly under a thick layer of volcanic ash, sealing it away from time. Unlike Pompeii, where bodies were found frozen in place, Akrotiri revealed no human remains. Archaeologists believe the people had enough warning to escape. Perhaps they felt the tremors and fled the city before the eruption. Perhaps they watched the skies turn strange and gathered what they could before vanishing into the unknown. Their departure left behind silent rooms still holding vessels of wine and oil, brushes and furniture, walls covered in frescoes, and the empty echo of a life interrupted. The ash that buried Akrotiri preserved it like a delicate fossil, sealing murals, staircases, and windows in place for thousands of years. 4 centuries after the eruption, Akrotiri lay forgotten beneath layers of volcanic debris. The island, reshaped by the blast, stood as a haunting caldera surrounded by water. Myths and whispers filled the void left behind.
Some believe that Akrotiri inspired the legend of Atlantis, a mighty civilization lost to the sea in a single dead night.
Travelers passed by Santorini, unaware that beneath their feet slept a lost city, intact and untouched. The passage of time eroded memories, and Akrotiri disappeared from the world's maps, becoming a ghost under stone. It wasn't until the late 19th century that Akrotiri began to stir once more. Initial excavations uncovered traces of ancient settlement, but it wasn't until 1967, under the direction of Greek archaeologist Spiridon Marinatos, that the full scale of Akrotiri's story came into view. As workers dug carefully through layers of hardened ash, entire buildings began to emerge, walls standing tall, staircases intact, pottery resting undisturbed where it had been left. It was as though the city had only just fallen asleep. Room by room, the ghost city awakened, revealing murals with colors still bright after 3,600 years, and artifacts that told the story of an advanced, creative, and peaceful people. The rediscovery of Akrotiri was one of archaeology's greatest revelations. Not only did it shed light on the Minoan civilization, but it also challenged previous ideas about the sophistication of Bronze Age societies. The level of detail, technology, and artistry found in Akrotiri painted a vivid picture of life before the eruption. The city's preservation rivaled that of Pompeii, yet with an added elegance, one that spoke more of life than death. Today, much of the site is sheltered under a modern roof, allowing visitors to walk through the ancient streets and peer into homes frozen in time, tracing their fingers along stones set by hands long gone. Akrotiri still holds many mysteries. Though the city has been extensively excavated, only a fraction of it has been uncovered. What lies beneath the remaining ash? Could further excavations reveal new art, new structures, or even insights into the people who once called this place home? Another lingering question surrounds the purpose of some buildings. Some appear to have served ceremonial or religious functions, suggesting a spiritual life as rich and complex as the material one. And the idea that this very city might be the inspiration for the legend of Atlantis continues to tantalize both scholars and dreamers alike. Perhaps one of the most compelling and heart-stirring details about Akrotiri is its silence. There are no signs of a struggle, no hastily abandoned meals, no skeletal remains caught unaware. It suggests a kind of dignity in departure, a farewell made with time, awareness, and grace. The people of Akrotiri didn't vanish in chaos. They seem to have walked away, carrying with them the essence of a civilization that still speaks through pigment and stone.
Akrotiri is not juste à ruin.
It is a whisper across time. A gentle voice from the Bronze Age that reminds us of the beauty of peaceful living, of human creativity, and of how nature's power can erase, but also preserve. To walk its quiet streets is to step into a dream half awake, where the sea still laps at the shores of Santorini and the ancient world breathes softly beneath layers of ash. Let us leave Akrotiri now, as we found it, silent and serene. May its story continue to live on, not just in books and ruins, but in our imaginations, where lost cities still glow beneath the surface of time, waiting to be heard again. Troy, Turkey, once thought myth, now an archaeological site. Long ago, beyond the reach of written memory, on the wind-swept coast of what is now northwestern Turkey, a city once stood in silent majesty, gazing out toward the Aegean Sea. That city was Troy, a place wrapped in legend and sung into eternity by poets and storytellers. For centuries, its very existence danced on the edge of myth and reality, and yet beneath the earth and stone, time waited patiently to whisper the truth. As you drift into rest, let your imagination wander to a land where gods once walked among mortals, where kings made choices that shaped destinies, and where a single wooden horse would become one of history's most enduring symbols. Nestled in the fertile plains of the Troad, near the mouth of the Dardanelles, Troy's strategic location made it a bridge between continents. Positioned where the waters of the Aegean kissed the edges of Asia, this city was more than just a settlement. It was a crossroads of commerce, culture, and conflict. The winds carried with them the songs of distant lands, while the roads pulsed with the footsteps of traders, soldiers, and dreamers.
The earth there is rich, a key witness to the rise and fall of empire.
And beneath its surface lay the layers of history that waited centuries to be uncovered. Troy was built by the ancient people known as the Trojans, but the truth of who they were remains complex. The city was founded during the Bronze Age, around 3000 BCE, and it grew under a civilization that blended Anatolian, Aegean, and possibly Indo-European influences. The Trojans were skilled builders and masterful traders, their culture vibrant and interwoven with the threads of surrounding peoples. Their city was a marvel, crafted with walls of massive stone blocks, rising high and strong, a testament to both engineering prowess and the need for protection. It is said that these walls were so formidable, they could withstand the siege of 1,000 armies, and perhaps they did. Troy's golden age came during the Late Bronze Age, from approximately 1700 to 1200 BCE. During this time, the city flourished. It became a thriving center of commerce, with goods flowing in from the Aegean, the Mediterranean, and even beyond the Near East. Merchants would arrive by sea, their boats heavy with copper, tin, ceramics, and fine textiles, while others journeyed by land, bringing spices, precious stones, and stories from distant kingdoms. The Palace of Troy, seated atop the citadel, would have glowed with life, kings and queens surrounded by attendants, feasts held beneath the stars, and the sounds of lyres drifting across the courtyards. The city was a beacon, powerful and proud, and yet, as all things do, it would face its trials. What made Troy truly special was not just its power or beauty, but the legends that grew around it. Homer, the great poet of ancient Greece, would later sing of Troy in his epic, the Iliad. Though the poem is part myth, it contains echoes of truth, of a war between Greeks and Trojans, of a prince named Paris and a queen called Helen, and of a warrior named Achilles whose rage would shake the very foundations of the city. Whether these figures were real or symbolic, they gave Troy a soul that transcended history. The city was more than walls and stones. It was an idea, a memory of heroism, passion, betrayal, and fate.
The fall of Troy came slowly, wrapped in shadow and fire.
Historians and archaeologists believe that the city faced numerous destructions over time, possibly due to earthquakes, invasions, and political upheaval. Around 1180 BCE, the city known as Troy Via was violently destroyed, its walls breached, its homes burned. Was this the real Trojan War? We may never know for certain, but the timing and evidence suggest a devastating conflict. Perhaps rival kingdoms coveted Troy's riches and position, or perhaps internal strife led to its collapse. Either way, the great city fell, and its people were scattered to the winds. The site was eventually abandoned, left to the wild grasses and whispering winds. For centuries, Troy faded into myth. Many believed it had never existed, that it was simply a poetic invention, a setting for the musings of Homer. The site, buried beneath layers of soil and silence, slumbered as the world moved on. It was not until the 19th century that a man named Heinrich Schliemann, driven by a burning belief in Homer's words, set out to find the city. Guided more by passion than science, Schliemann excavated the mound known as Helike in modern-day Turkey. And there, to the astonishment of the world, he uncovered the ruins of ancient cities, layer upon layer, civilization upon civilization. One of those layers, perhaps Troy 7, bore the marks of a violent end, the echoes of a once glorious kingdom consumed by flames. The legend, it seemed, was rooted in truth. Schliemann's discoveries sparked a revolution in archaeology, though his methods were controversial and sometimes destructive. Yet despite his flaws, his efforts brought Troy back into the light. Since then, more careful and detailed excavations have revealed even more of the city's story. We now know that Troy was not a single city, but at least 9 major layers of settlement, built one atop the other across millennia. The site tells a tale of resilience and rebirth, of a place that endured, adapted, and lived on through ages of change. Among the many mysteries of Troy, one continues to captivate the imagination: the Trojan horse. Did the Greeks truly leave a wooden horse filled with soldiers as a deceptive gift? Or was the story symbolic, perhaps referring to an earthquake or siege engine? The truth remains elusive. There is no physical evidence of the horse, but the power of the tale is undeniable. It speaks to the cunning of man, the vulnerability of trust, and the fragile line between victory and defeat. Whether fact or fiction, the story endures, carved into the cultural memory of the world. Even now, standing at the site of ancient Troy, one feels a strange quiet. The ruins lie scattered under the open sky, broken walls, worn pathways, and the remnants of towers that once watched over the plains. The air carries the scent of dry earth and wild herbs, and the distant sound of rustling leaves stirs the ghosts of the past. Visitors tread softly, as if not to wake the sleeping legends. At night, when the stars spread across the heavens, it is easy to imagine the flicker of torchlight and the murmur of forgotten voices. Troy is a reminder that myth and reality often walk hand in hand. It teaches us that stories, even those told in whispers and dreams, carry truths worth uncovering. In its rise and fall, its rediscovery, and its enduring mystery, Troy stands as a symbol of humanity's endless search, for meaning, for history, and for connection. As you drift deeper into rest, let the spirit of Troy guide your thoughts gently across time, where the lines between legend and life blur, and where the heartbeat of an ancient world still echoes in the stillness.
Nan Madol, Micronesia, mysterious city built on the sea.
Far across the vast Pacific Ocean, among the sapphire waters of the island nation of Micronesia, lies one of the world's most mysterious ancient cities, Nan Madol. Hidden away on the eastern shores of Pompeii Island, this city doesn't sit on land as most cities do. Instead, it floats in the shallows of a lagoon, spread across nearly 100 artificial islets, each one carefully constructed with towering basalt stones stacked like great black dominoes. It is a city built upon coral reefs, cradled by tide and time, whispered about by islanders, and puzzled over by historians. As you close your eyes and breathe slowly, imagine drifting over gentle ocean waves, through silent channels of ancient stone, where the only sounds are the calling seabirds and the rhythm of water lapping against the ruins. Nan Madol was built by the Sotaler dynasty, a powerful and enigmatic ruling class of Pompeii who held sway over the island centuries before European explorers even dreamed of the Pacific. The exact origins of the Sotalers are cloaked in legend, their rise to power attributed to two brothers, Olisipa and Olasopa, who arrived by canoe from a distant land, said to be guided by the stars. They brought with them the knowledge of sacred rituals and the desire to create a seat of power unlike any other. When they arrived on Pompeii's shores, they found a lush and verdant island of dense jungle and volcanic cliffs. But they did not build their capital inland, they chose the sea.
And so, stone by stone, Nan Madol rose like a dream from the water.
No one knows for certain when construction of Nan Madol began, but estimates suggest it may have started as early as the 8th or 9th century, with the city reaching its peak in the 13th century. For hundreds of years, this oceanic wonder was the ceremonial and political heart of the island, the ruling seat of the Sodalers. The city's name means spaces between, referring to the channels of water that weave among the islets, giving the entire site the feel of a floating city. Walking, or rather wading, through Nan Madol, you pass through doorways framed in stone, courtyards overgrown with vines, and tombs where rulers were once laid to rest in quiet ceremony. It is a place not only of governance but of deep spiritual importance, where the boundary between the earthly and the divine once blurred. The stones that make up Nan Madol's walls are immense. Some weigh several tons, and yet they were somehow transported, lifted, and stacked in perfect formation without the use of metal tools, wheels, or pulleys. The basalt columns, likely quarried from Soaks Ridge several miles away, were ferried across land and sea. How, no one can say for certain. Local legend speaks of black magic, of levitation and chants that commanded stones to fly. Others suggest clever rafts and teamwork, generations of labor passed down like the stones themselves. But even with modern knowledge, the sheer scale of Nan Madol's construction defies easy explanation. Some of the outer walls rise over 20 feet high, enclosing spaces that were once used for everything from royal rituals to daily living. What makes Nan Madol unique among ancient cities is not just its layout or mystery, it is that it was intentionally built apart from the main island, surrounded by water. This separation was both symbolic and practical. Symbolically, it distanced the ruling elite from the rest of society, emphasizing their sacred status. Practically, it helped control the population that lived within the walls, making it easier to manage subjects, rituals, and power. Only nobles and priests lived in Nan Madol. The common people remained on the mainland. In this way, the city was a living shrine, and only the worthy could pass its coral gates. For centuries, Nan Madol stood strong. The Sodalers ruled with firm command, demanding tributes from the islanders, enforcing their laws, and maintaining their connection to the spirits. But as with many empires, time and discontent brewed their downfall. According to Pompeian oral history, the Sodalers became increasingly oppressive, their rule heavy and unjust. Eventually, a challenger arose, a man named Isoclecal, said to be half god half human, who sailed from afar to defeat the Sodalers and restore balance. A great battle was fought, the Sodaler line was overthrown, and the city slowly began to fall into disuse. Without the sacred rulers to breathe life into its stone corridors, the city began to empty. Nature crept in silently and without resistance. Mangroves wound their way into the channels. Crabs scuttled through once sacred halls. Rain softened stone. And slowly, over generations, Nan Madol was abandoned. The people moved inland once again, leaving behind the floating city and its secrets. It wasn't destroyed by war or fire or flood, but by time, silence, and shifting power. The exact reasons for the abandonment are still debated. Some say it was the lack of fresh water and arable land that made continued habitation difficult. Others believe the city was so spiritually charged that, after the fall of the Sodalers, no one dared live there again. Over time, even its name became wrapped in legend, and many islanders came to believe the place was haunted. Centuries passed, and Nan Madol slept beneath the vines. It wasn't until European explorers and colonial officials began arriving in the 19th and early 20th centuries that Nan Madol was brought back into the global spotlight. In 1874, a missionary named Reverend Luther Gulick documented the site, but it wasn't until later expeditions in the 20th century that archaeologists began carefully mapping and studying the ruins. They were stunned, not only by the beauty of the site but by the sheer engineering prowess it represented. Here, in one of the most remote corners of the Pacific, was a monumental city built on coral foundations, rivaling in complexity and ambition the stone cities of the Old World. Excavations revealed burial vaults, sacred platforms, and temple complexes. Among the most famous is Nandawas, a massive enclosure said to hold the tombs of past rulers. The bones of high priests, pottery, and carved artifacts were discovered, each whispering fragments of life that once filled these stone walls. Yet so much remains buried or unexplored. Nan Madol does not give up its secrets easily. It is as if the city itself has decided what stories to tell and which to keep hidden. One of the most captivating mysteries surrounding Nan Madol is how such a complex was even conceived in such a location. With no written records, no clear blueprint, and no surviving architectural documents, everything we know comes from oral tradition and archaeology. And those basalt columns, up to 50 tons in weight, remain one of the greatest engineering puzzles in the world. How were they cut, shaped, and transported across such difficult terrain? Why choose the sea, the most unstable of foundations, to build something so grand and heavy? These questions stir the imagination, inviting comparisons to other megalithic marvels like Stonehenge or the pyramids of Egypt. And yet Nan Madol stands alone in its setting, neither landlocked nor seafaring, but something in between. To this day, many locals are reluctant to visit the ruins after dark. They speak of ghostly lights and strange sounds, of ancestors still watching, of sacred energy that lingers between the stones. Some believe that spirits guard the city, especially the resting places of the ancient rulers. Others say that disturbing the stones invites bad fortune. And so, while tourists and scholars have walked its coral paths, there remains a respectful distance, a sense that Nan Madol is not fully ours to understand. It belongs to the sea, to the past, and to the spirits that still whisper on the wind. As the sun sets over Pompeii, casting long shadows over the dark basalt walls, the channels of Nan Madol turn golden. The still water reflects the sky, and the air grows cool and quiet. Standing on one of its islets, you can almost hear the echoes of chanting priests, the soft splash of oars, the rustle of ceremonial robes. You can imagine the torches flickering in the night, illuminating stone doorways now lost to time. You feel the weight of centuries in the stillness around you. Nan Madol is a testament to human vision, to what can be achieved with determination, belief, and reverence for the unseen. It challenges our assumptions of what ancient people were capable of. It invites on not through size alone but through mystery, through the beauty of what we cannot fully explain. Though it lies half forgotten in the Pacific, visited by few, Nan Madol continues to inspire wonder. It remains a place where the world is quieter, where time feels different, and where the ocean keeps its secrets just a little longer. And so, if ever your thoughts drift across the sea in search of forgotten places, let them pause here, in the calm waters of Nan Madol. Let the silence speak, let the stones dream, and let your mind rest, knowing that some wonders are not meant to be solved, only remembered. Persepolis, Iran, ceremonial capital of the Persian Empire. In the heart of modern-day Iran, where the desert sands stretch endlessly and ancient whispers ride the wind, lie the ruins of one of the grandest ceremonial cities the world has ever known, Persepolis. Today, only towering columns and stone stairways remain, quietly basking under the golden sun. Yet centuries ago, these same stones echoed with the footsteps of kings, ambassadors, and soldiers. Persepolis was not just a city, it was a symbol of imperial majesty, a celebration of order and beauty, crafted to awe and unite the vast reaches of a powerful empire. Nestled near the small town of Marvdasht, in the province of Fars, Persepolis was situated against the rugged slopes of Kui-Rahmeth, or the Mountain of Mercy. The site was strategically chosen not for military defense, but for splendor. Unlike many ancient cities that emerged along rivers or trade routes, Persepolis was designed to be a stage, an eternal backdrop for royal rituals and ceremonies. From this high platform, emperors would showcase the unity of the Achaemenid Empire, which stretched from the Indus Valley in the east to the Aegean Sea in the west. The vision of Persepolis began under the reign of Darius the Great, around 518 BCE. Darius, who ruled over the Achaemenid Persian Empire during its zenith, imagined a city that would embody the power, diversity, and harmony of his vast dominion. His architects and artisans were drawn from every corner of the empire: Babylonians, Greeks, Egyptians, Medes, and more, all contributing their styles and skills to the project. Though Darius laid the foundation, it was his son Xerxes and later Artaxerxes who expanded the city, transforming it into a ceremonial capital unlike any other. Persepolis thrived during the 5th and early 4th centuries BCE. Unlike Babylon or Susa, which functioned as administrative centers, Persepolis was never meant to be the day-to-day seat of power. Instead, it was the heartbeat of the empire's spirit, a sacred space where the Persian New Year Nowruz was celebrated with grandeur. Every spring, delegations from across the empire arrived bearing tribute: golden vessels, woven fabrics, exotic animals, and rare spices, climbing the massive staircases to present their offerings before the king. These rituals were not just acts of loyalty, they were acts of unity. They reminded every subject that they were part of something immense, orderly, and magnificent. One of the most astonishing features of Persepolis was its architecture, meticulously planned and executed with reverence for both function and beauty. The Apadana, a grand audience hall supported by 72 columns, could accommodate thousands. Its walls were adorned with reliefs depicting processions of tribute-bearers from all nations, each figure carved with individual detail, wearing distinct clothing and carrying unique gifts. This artistic vision wasn't meant to intimidate, but to represent peaceful coexistence under Persian rule. The columns, some still standing, were once crowned with double-headed bulls and lions, symbols of strength and royal protection. The city's terraces, staircases, and palaces were built with a precision that still confounds modern architects. No mortar was used in the construction. Instead, stone blocks were cut so precisely that they interlocked perfectly. Drainage systems were incorporated into the foundation to protect against seasonal rains. Even the layout reflected the Persian worldview, an ideal order where chaos was kept at bay, and harmony reigned supreme. It was, in every sense, a city crafted by visionaries. But even the most magnificent empires are not immune to the passage of time. In 330 BCE, as Alexander the Great swept across Persia in his campaign to conquer the known world, he reached Persepolis. The city, rich with treasures and symbolism, fell to his army. For a brief moment, Alexander admired its splendor, but soon rage, or perhaps intoxicated arrogance, took hold. In a fateful decision, he ordered the city to be set ablaze. Some say it was revenge for the Persian burning of Athens. Others claim it was a drunken act, later regretted.
What were the motive? Flamme devant Persepolis.
Roofs collapsed, artworks perished, and the heart of the Persian Empire was reduced to charred ruins. After its fiery fall, Persepolis faded into silence. Without its ceremonial role and with no practical purpose left to serve, the city was abandoned. Centuries passed, and the desert winds began their slow work, burying columns in dust, wearing down carved stones. Locals forgot its name, calling the ruins Takhti Jamshid, the throne of Jamshid, after a mythical Persian king. The glory of Persepolis passed into legend, its true identity lost in time. It wasn't until the 17th and 18th centuries that Western travelers and scholars began taking serious interest in the mysterious ruins. Explorers like Jean Chardin and Karsten Niebuhr documented the site, sketching reliefs and copying inscriptions. These early accounts stirred curiosity in Europe, but it wasn't until the 20th century that systematic excavations began. The work of archaeologists like Ernst Herzfeld and later the Oriental Institute of the University of Chicago helped unveil the city's real history. Deciphering the cuneiform inscriptions revealed the city's connection to Darius, Xerxes, and the Achaemenid dynasty, confirming that this was indeed Persepolis. The rediscovery of Persepolis wasn't just an archaeological milestone, it was a cultural awakening. For the people of Iran and scholars around the world, it reopened a chapter of history that had been sealed under stone and ash. Reliefs that once depicted submission now spoke of cultural exchange. Burnt halls became museums of lost grandeur. What had once been a forgotten ruin now stood as a testament to the ancient world's ability to dream and build with purpose. One of the most intriguing mysteries surrounding Persepolis is the question of its true symbolic purpose. Why build such a lavish city far from centers of daily governance? Why create a space solely for ceremony, spectacle, and ritual? Some scholars argue that Persepolis was a cosmic city, laid out to reflect the Zoroastrian idea of order triumphing over chaos. Others suggest it was meant to show the empire's diversity, with its reliefs acting as a visual census of its many cultures. Still others see in its destruction a symbolic end to an era, a moment when the East and West collided, and a new world order began. Another curious detail lies in its fire-damaged remains. Archaeologists have debated whether Alexander's fire truly destroyed the entire city or merely part of it. Some parts of the complex show signs of preservation, suggesting that the city might have continued to be used in a limited fashion after the conquest. Additionally, the existence of storage rooms with untouched treasures hints at the possibility that not all was looted or burned. These unanswered questions continue to inspire debate and investigation. Today, Persepolis is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, drawing visitors from around the globe who walk the same stone steps once trodden by kings and emissaries. As the sun sets over the plateau, the columns cast long shadows, and the stone reliefs glow with golden light. There is a deep stillness here, a sacred quiet that transcends centuries. It is a place where time folds in on itself, where past and present touch, however briefly. Persepolis reminds us that even in ruin, beauty can endure. Even in silence, a city can speak. Its stories are etched not just in stone but in the imagination of all who encounter it. The power of Persepolis lies not in what it was, but in what it continues to be, a symbol of human ambition, artistry, and the enduring desire to leave a mark upon the world. Long after its towers crumbled and its halls emptied, Persepolis lives on, whispering tales of an empire that once ruled not with brute force alone, but with vision, ritual, and elegance. Let the desert winds carry its story across the world, soft and eternal. Helike, Greece, submerged by a tsunami in 373 BC. In the ancient land of Achaea, nestled along the shores of the Gulf of Corinth in what we now call Greece, there once lay a proud and prosperous city known as Helike. It was a place that shimmered with the vibrance of Hellenic culture, echoing with the prayers of its citizens and the soft clang of metalwork in its bustling marketplaces. Helike was not just another city in the Greek world. It was a cultural and religious beacon, a place revered by many and honored by the gods, particularly by Poseidon, the mighty god of the sea. This coastal city held a deep spiritual connection to Poseidon, whom the people worshipped with great devotion. They built temples, held festivals, and poured their reverence into rituals that were believed to keep the sea god's favor close and the waters calm. The land Helike stood on was rich and fertile. From the highlands came goods of the earth, and from the sea came trade and abundance. Ships docked regularly in the city's port, their sails puffed with the breezes of commerce, bringing merchants from across the Mediterranean. Helike thrived as a hub not only of trade but of culture and influence. Other Greek city-states respected its authority. Even coins from far-off cities bore symbols of Helike, attesting to its significance. In the 5th century BCE, at the height of its prosperity, Helike held a leading position among the 12 cities of the Achaean League, a confederation of states united for mutual benefit and defense. The city was strong, its people were confident, and the rhythms of daily life moved with a sense of safety and pride. But even the strongest walls and most pious prayers cannot always prevent what stirs beneath the earth. It was the winter of 373 BCE, and as the night fell gently over Helike, the people could not have known that it would be their last. According to ancient accounts, strange signs began to appear in the days leading up to the catastrophe. Animals, it is said, began fleeing the area. Rats, snakes, and insects were seen abandoning their burrows and scurrying inland, as if something deep within them sensed the danger approaching. Some may have wondered why, but for most, life went on as it always had. Then, with no warning, it struck. In the stillness of night, the ground beneath Helike trembled violently. An earthquake, sudden and merciless, shattered the city. Temples crumbled, homes collapsed, and fires broke out amid the chaos. The sea, once a source of wealth and life, turned against its worshippers. A massive tsunami followed the earthquake, sweeping across the city with devastating force. Within moments, Helike was gone, swallowed by the sea, buried beneath the waves that once kissed its shores. The entire city vanished so completely that its memory began to take on the quality of myth. Ancient writers like Strabo, Pausanias, and Diodorus Siculus wrote of Helike's fate, describing how the city sank into the sea and how fishermen, even centuries later, would claim to see remnants of buildings beneath the waters. Some said that bronze statues of Poseidon still stood in the depths, visible when the sea was calm, a haunting reminder of divine wrath or perhaps a mystery lost to time. But as the centuries rolled on, Helike's exact location remained unknown, buried not only beneath layers of sediment but also beneath layers of forgotten history. For nearly 2,000 years, Helike became part of legend, its fate cautionary, its name fading into the whispers of scholars and the dreams of poets. Yet human curiosity is as enduring as the earth itself, and in time, the search for Helike resumed. Archaeologists, driven by historical accounts and a deep-seated need to uncover the truth, began probing the coastal plains of Achaea. For many decades, the search led to nothing conclusive. It was believed that Helike had slipped beneath the modern Gulf of Corinth and lay somewhere offshore, submerged and unreachable. But in the 1990s, a major breakthrough changed everything. A team led by Greek archaeologist Dora Katsonopoula, in collaboration with the Helike Society, used modern geophysical techniques to investigate the region near the town of Aegean. What they discovered was stunning. Just a few kilometers inland, not in the sea as once thought, they uncovered a buried city that matched descriptions of Helike. Layers of sediment had preserved the ruins beneath the earth, and there, protected for millennia, were remnants of roads, pottery, walls, and coins bearing the image of Poseidon. The rediscovery of Helike was not a single moment, but a process of patient excavation and interpretation. Over time, the pieces began to fit together, painting a picture of a vibrant and influential city, frozen in time by the disaster that destroyed it. The sediment that had once entombed Helike now revealed its secrets to the world, offering insights into life in ancient Greece, the power of nature, and the way memory can shift between legend and reality. The excavation site became a source of fascination for historians and tourists alike, not only because of what was found, but because of what it meant. Helike, long thought to be lost beneath the waves, had simply been buried beneath the silt of time. One of the most intriguing aspects of Helike's story lies in the timing of its destruction. The sudden disappearance of a city due to an earthquake and tsunami was unusual enough to make a lasting impression across cultures. Some scholars suggest that Helike may have inspired the tale of Atlantis, as told by Plato just a few decades after the city vanished. The parallels are striking: a wealthy and powerful city destroyed in a single day and night by natural forces, swallowed by the sea, its memory preserved in stories. Whether Helike was truly the source of Plato's inspiration or simply a chilling coincidence, the mystery adds a poetic dimension to its already haunting legacy. The ruins of Helike now rest beneath layers of soil and quiet reflection. The wind that blows across the plain carries with it not just the sense of olive trees and distant salt air, but also the soft echoes of voices long gone. Farmers work fields that once bustled with ancient commerce, unaware that beneath their feet lie the remains of temples, marketplaces, and homes that once formed the heart of a civilization. The story of Helike reminds us how fragile even the grandest of human achievements can be when faced with the overwhelming power of nature. Yet it also teaches us something about endurance, not just of ruins, but of memory, of myth, and of the human desire to understand what came before us. In the end, Helike was not completely lost. It lived on in tales passed down through generations, in the lines of ancient texts, and now once again in the soil of Greece. Its rediscovery is a testament to the power of perseverance and the enduring pull of history. And so, as we drift gently into sleep with thoughts of long-lost cities and ancient voices, Helike rests beneath us still, silent, patient, and no longer forgotten. Chon Chon, Peru, the largest city of pre-Columbian South America. Nestled in the coastal desert of northern Peru lies the quiet whisper of a civilization long gone, a city molded from earth and dream, Chon Chon. Once the beating heart of the powerful Khmer Empire, Chon Chon was not only a marvel of pre-Columbian engineering but a symbol of social harmony, artistic brilliance, and resilience against the natural world. Today, its sandy walls and sculpted corridors lie silent under the desert sun, but their echoes speak of a time when this vast adobe city thrived as the largest in the Americas. Located just west of the modern city of Trujillo, the ruins of Chon Chon emerge like a mirage. The city was constructed on a flat expanse of arid land, facing the cold currents of the Pacific Ocean. To the untrained eye, it may appear desolate, yet beneath its humble earthen hues lies a story as rich and vast as the empire it once ruled. The walls, covered in reliefs of fish, birds, and geometric patterns, tell tales of a society that lived in close harmony with the rhythms of the sea and sky. The very location of Chon Chon, between the Andes and the Pacific, defined the soul of its people, resourceful, balanced, and deeply attuned to their environment. The master architects of this magnificent city were the Chimu people, a sophisticated culture that rose after the decline of the Moche civilization. They were skilled artisans, farmers, and administrators, who around the year 850 AD began constructing what would become one of the greatest urban centers in South America. The Chimu believed in a rigidly hierarchical society, and Chon Chon reflected that worldview through its distinct zones: royal compounds, administrative quarters, artisan districts, and common residential areas. Each part of the city was planned with meticulous care, its layout speaking volumes about the values and priorities of the Chimu world. At its peak in the 15th century, just before the Inca conquest, Chon Chon covered an estimated 20 square kilometers and housed a population of nearly 60,000 people. This adobe metropolis was comprised of 9 large citadels or palaces, each thought to have served as the residence and administrative center for a ruler. These were not merely homes but spiritual hubs, adorned with intricate friezes and ceremonial spaces. The city was famous for its unique irrigation systems, which brought water from rivers far beyond the desert's edge, sustaining both its people and lush agricultural fields. The Chimu engineers, using canals and wells, turned the unforgiving desert into a fertile plain, an achievement that stood as a testament to their genius. Chan Chan's greatest marvel, however, was its silence. Unlike the stone cities of the Andes that reached toward the heavens, Chan Chan lay low, molded from mud, whispering stories instead of shouting them. Its muted elegance was its strength. Instead of building vertically, the Chimu expanded horizontally, creating sprawling compounds surrounded by high, decorated walls. These spaces included ceremonial courtyards, reservoirs, storerooms, and living quarters, all designed to reflect cosmic and social order. Fish motifs danced across walls, symbolizing the sea's importance. Birds and waves intertwined, narrating myths and daily life in an unspoken language of adobe reliefs. Every inch of Chan Chan was a canvas. Yet for all its grandeur, Chan Chan could not withstand the changing tides of history. In the late 15th century, the rising Inca Empire set its eyes on the fertile northern coast. In a calculated campaign led by the great Inca ruler Tupac Inca Yupanqui, the Chimu capital fell, and with it, the independence of its people. The Incas, ever strategic, absorbed the region's knowledge and wealth while dismantling its power structures. Though Chan Chan remained inhabited for some time, its influence waned. Later, the Spanish conquest introduced further destruction. Colonists looted its palaces in search of gold and silver, stripping the city of its treasures and leaving its intricate walls to erode in the desert wind. Over time, Chan Chan faded from memory, swallowed by sand and neglect. Winds carved through its walls, rain softened its clay. With no grand stone structures to defy the centuries, the city seemed to melt back into the earth. What once was a bustling capital became a ghost city, its name barely whispered among local villagers. For hundreds of years, Chan Chan slumbered under the open sky, unnoticed by the wider world. But the desert does not forget, and nor do those who listen carefully. The rediscovery of Chan Chan began in the early 20th century, as archaeologists and explorers turned their attention to Peru's northern coast. Slowly, with gentle hands and curious hearts, researchers began to peel back the layers of time. By the 1960s, efforts were underway to document and preserve the fragile ruins. In 1986, UNESCO declared Chan Chan a World Heritage Site, recognizing both its historical significance and its vulnerability. Conservationists faced immense challenges: how to protect an adobe city from rain, wind, and modern development. Despite the odds, parts of the city have been stabilized, allowing visitors today to walk through its ancient corridors and touch the past with their own hands. One of the most fascinating aspects of Chan Chan lies not just in its architecture, but in its spiritual mysteries. The Chimu had no written language, yet their walls speak volumes. Scholars believe that the city's layout reflects cosmological principles: north to south movement, the flow of water, and the cycles of life and death. Burial chambers within the palaces hint at rituals of ancestor worship, while excavations have revealed offerings of ceramics, shells, and textiles buried with reverence. The presence of intricate fish and bird motifs suggests a profound connection to both land and sea, and perhaps even a belief in duality or spiritual realms beyond the physical. Another enduring mystery is the exact purpose of the reservoirs found within the citadels. Were they for water storage, ritual purification, or symbolic representations of the ocean itself? Their placement and construction suggest that they held more than just practical value. They were sacred mirrors, still pools in which the heavens could reflect. The more we study Chan Chan, the more we realize how much remains unknown, wrapped in the silence of the desert and the humility of clay. Perhaps what is most poignant about Chan Chan is not its fall, but its quiet survival. While empires rose and fell around it, while conquistadors pillaged and time eroded, the city endured. Not in gold or grandeur, but in resilience. It reminds us that greatness doesn't always shout, it sometimes whispers. That a city built of earth can stand as tall as any made of stone, and that memory, when gently unearthed, has the power to heal and teach. Today, as the sun sets over the ruins, casting long shadows over its adobe walls, Chan Chan feels less like a ruin and more like a storybook. Every corridor, every carving, every grain of sand carries a piece of a once flourishing world. Tourists walk softly, archaeologists dig with care, and the wind still moves through the city like a song. The Chimu are long gone, but their spirit lingers, patient and enduring, waiting to be understood. So if you ever find yourself on the northern coast of Peru, follow the breeze and the rustle of the palms. Walk where once walked the artisans, the priests, the fishermen. Listen to the quiet song of a city made of sand and soul. In Chan Chan, the past is not buried, it simply rests, beneath your feet and within the wind.